You know the words. You've studied them, written them in your notebook, maybe even memorized entire lists of them. And yet, the moment you open your mouth to speak, they vanish. Your mind goes blank, or worse, it hands you the same 5 basic words you've been using for years. Good, nice, happy, bad, sad. If that sounds familiar, stay with me for the next few minutes because today we're going to fix the real problem. It's not that you don't know enough English. It's that you know passive words, words you can recognize when you read them, but you can't produce them when you speak. Today, we turn passive vocabulary into active vocabulary. We turn recognition into real, spontaneous use. My name is Emma, and this is Natural Word English. If you're new here, welcome. Every single day on this channel, we take advanced C1 to C2 English vocabulary and we place it directly into real-life situations so that instead of memorizing isolated words, you absorb them the way native speakers actually acquired them. Through context, through emotion, through story. By the end of this video, you will have around 60 new advanced words and expressions that you can use immediately. And more importantly, you will know exactly how to use them, when to use them, and how they sound in natural, connected speech. Let's start by understanding why this happens to almost every serious English learner. You spend hours reading articles, watching videos, maybe even studying for an exam like IELTS or C1 Advanced. You collect thousands of words. But collecting is not the same as owning. A word becomes yours, truly yours, only after your brain has used it inside a real emotional situation, not a flashcard. This is why a word like happy comes out instantly when you speak. But a word like elated, which you've probably seen dozens of times, stays frozen somewhere in the back of your mind. The fix isn't more studying. The fix is context, repetition inside situations, and speaking the word out loud before you actually need it in real life, so that when the real moment comes, your mouth already knows the shape of the word. That's exactly what we're going to do together right now. I'll give you a real scene, a real feeling, a real conversation, and I want you to say these words out loud with me, even quietly, even just moving your lips. Don't just listen passively. Your voice needs to practice this, not only your ears. Let's begin with our first block, and it's one that almost everyone can relate to. Emotional reactions in the workplace. Picture this. It's Friday afternoon. You've spent the entire week preparing a report, checking every number, every sentence, every detail. You've been genuinely meticulous about it, meaning extremely careful and precise. Paying attention to every small detail, the kind of person who checks things twice, sometimes 3 times, because small mistakes matter to you. Instead of saying, I was very careful with the report, you can now say, I was meticulous with the report. Notice the sound of it. Meticulous. The stress falls on the second syllable. Meticulous. Say it with me slowly. meticulous. Now, a little faster, the way you'd actually say it in a sentence. I was meticulous about every detail. Good. Now, imagine this. You finish the report. You send it to your manager, confident, maybe even a little proud. And then, an hour later, your manager sends it back covered in comments, asking you to redo half of it. What do you feel? In basic English, you'd say, I feel bad, or I'm annoyed. But there's a much more precise, much more native-sounding word for this exact feeling. Exasperated. It means extremely irritated or frustrated, especially because something keeps happening again and again, or because a situation feels unfair after all your effort. I was exasperated when he rejected my report after I'd worked on it all week. Let's break the sound down. X-A-S-perated. The stress is on the second syllable. In fast, natural speech, the middle often blurs together. Exasperated. Say it slowly first. Exasperated. Now faster, the way a native speaker would actually say it in a sentence, letting the sounds connect naturally. I'm so exasperated right now. Let's put this into a real scene. Imagine you're sitting at your desk. The office is quiet except for the sound of typing somewhere nearby. Your phone buzzes. It's an email from your manager. Your stomach tightens slightly as you open it. Now listen to this conversation and notice how these two words appear naturally. Sarah, I just got your report back from the review. Honestly, some parts were incredibly meticulous. The data section was flawless. David, thank you. I spent hours checking it. Say raw. But he wants you to redo the entire introduction again. David, are you serious? This is the third time. I'm honestly exasperated at this point. Sarah, I get it. It's frustrating when you've clearly put in the effort. David, it's not even that the feedback is wrong, it's that it keeps changing every single time. Sarah, have you told him that directly? David, not yet. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining. Sarah, there's a difference between complaining and being honest about your workload. Now let's practice this ourselves. I'm going to read David's lines, and I want you to imagine you're Sarah, responding naturally in your own words, using at least one of our new words if you can. Pause after each of David's lines and answer out loud before I give you an example response. David says, I'm exasperated. This is the third time he's asked me to redo this. Pause the video for a second and answer as Sarah, in your own words. Here's one natural way Sarah might respond. That does sound exhausting. Maybe it's worth asking him for clearer expectations from the start. Notice how natural, simple, connecting words hold the sentence together, while the emotional vocabulary carries the real meaning. Let's add a third word to this same scene, because after a setback like this, people usually respond in one of two ways. Some people give up quickly. Others keep going despite the difficulty. If David keeps trying, despite being exasperated, we could describe him as resilient. Resilient means able to recover quickly from difficulties. staying strong and bouncing back after a setback instead of staying discouraged. Even after 3 rounds of revisions, David stayed resilient and kept improving the report. The pronunciation, resilient. The stress is clearly on the second syllable. Try it slowly. Resilient. Now in a full sentence, letting the words flow together naturally. She's incredibly resilient. She never lets setbacks stop her. Here's a short visualization before we continue. Close your eyes for just a moment, or simply imagine this in your mind as I describe it. You're walking into the office on Monday morning. The revised report is finally approved. Your manager stops by your desk and says, "Good work. This version is exactly what we needed." How would you feel? Try building this thought fully in English, out loud if you can. I would feel elated. Elated means extremely happy and excited. A stronger, more vivid version of happy, usually used for a specific moment of great success or good news. Not a general daily feeling. I felt elated when I found out I got the promotion. Pronunciation, elated. Elated. Notice the A sound in the middle, like the word late. Elated. Now a full natural sentence. She was absolutely elated when she got the acceptance letter. Let's also learn the opposite feeling. Because life at work isn't only about the good moments. Imagine instead that on Monday, your manager tells you the report has been rejected completely and the entire project might be canceled. That heavy, uncomfortable feeling of worry about something that hasn't happened yet. That's apprehensive. Apprehensive means feeling worried or nervous about something that might happen in the future, often before an important event or an uncertain outcome. I felt apprehensive before the meeting because I didn't know how they'd react to the new numbers. Pronunciation. Apprehensive. The stress is on the third syllable. Apprehensive. In a sentence, I'm a little apprehensive about the interview tomorrow. And finally, for people who don't hide how they feel, who show visible annoyance or displeasure openly, we have the word disgruntled. Disgruntled means displeased or dissatisfied, and it's often used about someone who is quietly annoyed and shows it through their attitude or behavior rather than shouting about it. The disgruntled employee stopped volunteering for extra projects after being passed over for promotion. Pronunciation. Disgruntled. In a sentence. A few disgruntled customers left negative reviews after the delay. Let's pause here and celebrate your progress for a moment, because this is real active vocabulary now, not passive recognition. You've just learned and spoken 5 genuinely advanced words: meticulous, exasperated, resilient, elated, apprehensive, and disgruntled. That's excellent work, and we're only getting started. Before we move to our next block, let's do a very quick fluency check. I'll describe a short situation. And I want you to respond out loud with the correct word without pausing to translate, just reacting the way you would in a real conversation. Ready? Someone checks every detail of their work extremely carefully. What word describes them? Meticulous, exactly. Someone feels extremely happy after hearing great news. Elated. Someone feels nervous about something that hasn't happened yet.
Apprehensive.
Nice work. That reaction speed is exactly what builds real fluency. Now let's move into our second block, and we're shifting from emotional reactions to something equally important, describing personality. Because when you talk about people, whether it's a coworker, a friend, a character in a story, or even yourself, basic words like nice, friendly, or quiet quickly become repetitive and vague. Let's upgrade them. Imagine you're at a work conference. There's one person in the room who moves from group to group, laughing, introducing themselves to strangers, clearly enjoying every conversation. That person is gregarious. Gregarious means sociable, enjoying the company of others, and comfortable in social situations, especially with groups of people. He's incredibly gregarious. Within 10 minutes of arriving at the party, he already knew everyone's name. Pronunciation. Gregarious. The stress is on the second syllable. Gregarious. Full sentence. She's naturally gregarious, so networking events don't stress her out at all. Now imagine the opposite. In the same room, there's another person standing by the window, arms crossed, not making eye contact, giving short answers when someone approaches. This person seems distant and emotionally cool, even a little unfriendly, though not necessarily rude on purpose. That's aloof. Aloof means distant or not friendly or interested in socializing with others, keeping an emotional distance from people around them. I found her a bit aloof at first, but once I got to know her, she was actually very warm. Pronunciation. Aloof. Aloof. Notice the O sound, like the word food. Aloof. In a sentence, he can seem aloof in meetings, but he's just concentrating. Let's build a scene here, because contrast makes vocabulary stick far better than lists. Imagine two coworkers, Anna and Marcus, meeting a new client for the first time. Anna, did you notice how gregarious the new client is? She was chatting with the receptionist like they were old friends. Marcus, really? I actually thought she seemed a little aloof during the meeting. Anna, with us? Maybe. I think she just warms up slowly with new people. Marcus, that's fair. Some people need time before they open up. Anna, true. I'd rather work with someone genuinely reserved than someone fake friendly, Marcus. Same here. At least you know where you stand with her. Now let's switch roles and you practice. I'll say Anna's first line again, and this time you respond as Marcus, in your own words, using either gregarious or aloof if you can. Pause the video and try it out loud now. Here's one pause response. I noticed that too. She seems really comfortable talking to anyone. Whatever you said, as long as you were reacting naturally in English without translating first, that's exactly the skill we're training. Exactly. Let's continue building this personality, vocabulary, set with someone who notices details other people miss, who understands situations quickly and clearly, almost seeing beneath the surface. That person is astute. Astute means having a sharp, accurate understanding of situations, quick to notice things, and making smart, well-informed decisions because of it. She made an astute observation about the market that completely changed our strategy. Pronunciation. Astute. Astute. In a sentence, he's an astute investor. He saw the risk before anyone else did. Now, someone who doesn't show off, who has real skills or achievements, but never brags about them. Staying modest despite their success. That's unassuming. Unassuming means modest, not proud or showy. Even when a person has real talent or achievement. Despite winning the award, she remained completely unassuming about it. Pronunciation. Unassuming. Unassuming. Sentence. He's surprisingly unassuming for someone with his level of experience. Let's add someone who focuses only on what actually works in real life, avoiding unnecessary theory or idealism, making decisions based on practical results rather than principle. That's pragmatic. Pragmatic means dealing with things in a practical, realistic way, based on what actually works, rather than on theories or ideals. Instead of debating the perfect plan for hours, she took a pragmatic approach and just started testing solutions. Pronunciation. Pragmatic. Pragmatic. Sentence. We need a pragmatic solution, not a perfect one. We're out of time. Now let's look at someone with a more negative outlook. Someone who doubts other people's honesty or good intentions, who tends to believe people act mainly out of self-interest. That's cynical. Cynicals means distrustful of human sincerity. Believing people are usually motivated by selfishness rather than good intentions. After being lied to so many times at his last job, he became fairly cynical about corporate promises. Pronunciation. Cynical. Sentence. Try not to sound too cynical in the interview, even if you've had bad experiences. And finally, for this block, someone who says exactly what they think, directly and honestly, even when the truth might be uncomfortable to hear. That's forthright. Forthright means direct and honest in speech, saying what you think clearly without avoiding the truth. I appreciate how forthright she is. You always know exactly where you stand with her. Pronunciation. Forthright. Forthright. Sentence. He gave a forthright answer, even though it wasn't what they wanted to hear. Let's take just a moment here, a short pause before we move forward. Take a slow breath. Let your shoulders relax. You've now added 6 more words to your active vocabulary. Gregarious, aloof, astute, unassuming, pragmatic, cynical, right? And forthright, that's actually 7. Wonderful work. Notice something important. You're not just memorizing definitions anymore. You're starting to picture real people, real situations, real conversations attached to each word. That's exactly how these words move from your notebook into your actual speech. Before we continue to our next block, let's practice one quick pronunciation and connected speech pattern. Because knowing a word and recognizing it when someone speaks quickly are two very different skills. In fast, natural speech, native speakers often connect the end of one word to the beginning of the next. Listen to the difference between careful, separated speech and fast, natural speech. Slowly. She is an astute observer. Now quickly, the way you'd actually hear it in conversation, where is Anne blends almost into is Anne. She's an astute observer. Try saying it fast yourself a few times. She's an astute observer. This blending is completely normal. And the more you practice producing it yourself, the easier it becomes to understand when you hear other people speaking at natural speed. Coming up in this video, we still have a lot ahead of us. We're going to explore vocabulary for honest and difficult conversations, words for describing how people handle setbacks and pressure, expressions for reacting with real emotional depth to good and bad news, and toward the end, a full listening and shadowing section where we slow down, then speed up, so your ear and your mouth both adjust to real native rhythm. We'll also do a sensory self-talk exercise describing your surroundings using today's new vocabulary, something you can genuinely repeat on your own after this video ends, and a fast fluency round at the very end to lock everything in. So stay with me. Keep saying these words out loud. Don't just read them silently, and let's keep building your real, spoken, active English vocabulary together. Let's move directly into our third block, and this one is about honest and difficult conversations, because knowing how to describe communication style precisely is one of the fastest ways to sound genuinely advanced in English. Imagine your friend asks for your honest opinion about a business idea you actually think is weak. You don't want to be cruel, but you also don't want to lie. If you tell the truth clearly and openly, without hiding your real thoughts, you're being candid. Candid means honest and straightforward, saying what you truly think without pretending or softening the truth. Unnecessarily. Unnecessarily. Can I be candid with you? I don't think this idea is ready yet. Pronunciation. Candid. Candid. Notice the short A sound, like in can. Candid. In a sentence. I appreciate your candid feedback, even though it was hard to hear. But being honest doesn't mean being harsh. There's a skill in delivering difficult truths in a way that doesn't hurt people unnecessarily, choosing your words carefully to avoid causing offense. That's being tactful. Tactful means skillful and careful when dealing with sensitive situations, saying difficult things in a way that avoids upsetting people. She was very tactful. When she pointed out the mistake, she didn't embarrass him in front of the team. Pronunciation. T, fool. Tactful. Sentence. He found a tactful way to decline the invitation without hurting her feelings. Now let's picture the opposite kind of communicator. Someone who speaks bluntly, sometimes rudely, without softening their words at all, often coming across as impolite, even if that's not their intention. That's brusque. Brusque means short, abrupt, and unfriendly in speech or manner, often unintentionally rude. The doctor's brusque manner made the patients feel like they couldn't ask questions. Pronunciation. Brusque. Brusque. It rhymes with dusk. Brusque. Sentence. His email sounded brusque, but I don't think he meant to be rude. Let's build a full scene here, because this contrast between candid, tactful, and brusque is genuinely useful in real workplace English. Imagine a small meeting room. 3 colleagues, Rachel, Tom, and Priya, reviewing a proposal that clearly has serious problems. Rachel: I have to be candid with both of you. I don't think this proposal is going to convince the client. Tom: That's a bit harsh, isn't it? We spent 2 weeks on this. Rachel: I'm not trying to be unkind. I just think it's better to say it now than after we present it. Priya: I actually agree with Rachel, but maybe we could find a more tactful way to bring it up with the client directly. Tom: Fair enough. I just don't want us to come across as brusque when we tell them we're changing direction. Priya: We won't. We'll explain our reasoning clearly and respectfully. Rachel: Exactly. Honest doesn't have to mean harsh. Now let's practice switching roles. I'll read Rachel's first line again, and this time you respond as Tom in your own words before I give you an example. Pause now and answer out loud. Here's one natural response. I hear you, but let's talk about specific changes instead of just saying it's not working. Notice how the response doesn't need to be complicated. It just needs to sound natural and connected. Let's add 2 more words to this cluster. First, someone who gives generously and forgives easily, especially toward people who might not deserve it, showing genuine kindness even in difficult situations. That's magnanimous. Magnanimous means generous and forgiving, especially toward a rival or someone in a weaker position, showing largeness of spirit. Even after winning the case, she was magnanimous enough to help her opponent's company recover. Pronunciation: mag-nan-imous. Magnanimous. Sentence: It was a magnanimous gesture to publicly credit his rival's contribution. Now the opposite, someone who wants to hurt or punish another person, often because of anger or a desire for revenge, holding on to resentment. That's vindictive. Vindictive means having a strong desire for revenge, acting out of a wish to harm someone who has hurt you. After the breakup, he became surprisingly vindictive, trying to damage her reputation at work. Pronunciation: vindictive. Vindictive. Sentence: There's no need to be vindictive. Just move on and focus on yourself. And finally, someone who does good things for others without expecting anything back, genuinely caring about people's well-being more than their own benefit. That's altruistic. Altruistic means unselfishly concerned with the well-being of others, doing good without expecting personal reward. Her decision to volunteer abroad every summer is genuinely altruistic. She never mentions it unless someone asks. Pronunciation: altruistic. Altruistic. Sentence: it was a purely altruistic decision. There was nothing in it for him. Let's celebrate again for a second, because you've now added candid, tactful, brusque, magnanimous, vindictive, and altruistic to your active vocabulary. That's genuinely impressive. And notice something. These aren't textbook words anymore. They're words attached to real people, real meetings, real emotional situations in your mind. That connection is exactly what makes a word stick permanently instead of disappearing after the video ends. Now let's move to block 4, which is about decision-making and mindset, because how you describe the way someone thinks and decides is one of the clearest signs of advanced English fluency. Imagine a coworker who never rushes into decisions, who thinks carefully about risks before acting, avoiding unnecessary danger. That person is prudent. Prudent means acting with careful thought about the future, especially regarding risk and money, showing good judgment. It would be prudent to save part of the bonus rather than spend it all immediately. Pronunciation: prudent. Prudent. Sentence: she made the prudent choice and backed up all her files before the update. Now the opposite, someone who acts suddenly, without thinking carefully first, often driven by emotion in the moment rather than planning. That's implanning. That's impulsive. Impulsive means acting suddenly without careful thought, driven by feeling or desire rather than logic. He impulsively quit his job the same day his manager criticized him. Pronunciation: impulsive. Impulsive. Sentence: buying a car that quickly was a pretty impulsive decision. Let's picture someone with excellent judgment, someone who notices small but important differences between options and chooses wisely as a result. That's discerning. Discerning means having good judgment, especially the ability to notice fine distinctions and details that others might miss. A discerning shopper will always compare the ingredients before buying. Pronunciation: discerning. Discerning. Sentence: he has a discerning eye for quality. He can spot a cheap imitation instantly. Now, someone who takes their responsibilities extremely seriously, working and thoroughly, always making sure things are done properly and on time. That's conscientious. Conscientious means careful to do things correctly, guided by a strong sense of duty and responsibility. She's incredibly conscientious. She double-checks every email before sending it. Pronunciation: shoes. Conscientious. Sentence: he's one of the most conscientious employees on the team. Let's contrast that with someone who has become too comfortable, no longer trying hard, because they assume everything is already fine, which can eventually lead to mistakes. That's complacent. Complacent means Feeling so satisfied with a situation that you stop trying to improve, often leading to careless mistakes. After years of success, the company became complacent and missed the shift in the market. Pronunciation: complacent, complacent. Sentence: don't get complacent just because sales are good this quarter. Now, someone who stays firmly loyal to a belief or a person, even when it becomes difficult or unpopular to do so. That's staunch. Staunch means firmly loyal and committed, especially in supporting a person, cause, or belief without wavering. She remained a staunch supporter of the project, even when the board wanted to cancel it. Pronunciation: staunch, staunch. Sentence: he's a staunch believer in giving second chances. And finally, someone who has made a firm decision and won't be easily persuaded to change their mind, showing strong determination. That's resolute. Resolute means showing strong determination and firmness, especially when facing difficulty or opposition. Despite the criticism, she remained resolute in her decision to launch the product early. Pronunciation: resolute, resolute. Sentence: he gave a resolute answer. There was no changing his mind. Let's build a scene using several of these words together, since real conversations rarely use just one advanced word at a time. Imagine a small team discussing whether to launch a product early or wait. James: I still think we should wait another month. Rushing this feels impulsive. Nadia: I disagree. We've tested everything carefully. This isn't impulsive. It's a calculated decision. James: maybe, but I'd rather be prudent than sorry. Nadia: I understand the caution, but at some point, being too careful becomes complacent. Competitors are moving faster than us. James: fair point. I don't want us falling behind. Nadia: exactly. I'm resolute about this launch date, but I do respect that you're being conscientious about the risks. James: all right, let's move forward. But let's stay discerning about the feedback once it's live. Nadia: agreed. Staying alert doesn't mean staying scared. This time, let's do a longer role-play switch. I'll read Nadia's first response again, and I want you to respond as James, continuing the disagreement naturally, using at least one of today's words if you can. Take a moment, pause, and answer out loud before continuing. Here's one possible way James might respond. I hear you, but I still think a prudent approach protects us if something goes wrong. Whatever you said, as long as it connected naturally to the conversation. That's real progress. Let's slow down for a short phonetics and connected speech section here, because this is exactly the kind of listening skill that separates intermediate learners from advanced ones. Native speakers rarely pronounce every word with equal weight. Instead, they stress the important content words and quickly reduce the small grammar words around them. Listen to this sentence slowly, word by word. What do you think about it? Now listen to how it actually sounds in fast, natural speech. What do you think about it? The what do you often collapses into something closer to wa, daya, and about it connects into about it. Try saying it yourself, slowly first. What do you think about it? Now try saying it quickly, letting the sounds blend naturally. Wadaya, think about it. This isn't lazy speech. It's simply how connected, natural English works, and training your mouth to produce it helps your ear recognize it instantly when you hear other people speak. Let's also quickly practice rising and falling intonation because this affects meaning more than most learners realize. When you ask a genuine yes or no question, your voice usually rises at the end. Are you resolute about this? With the pitch climbing on the last word. But when you make a firm, confident statement, your voice typically falls at the end. Iged, I'm resolute about this. Try both out loud, first as a rising question, then as a falling statement. Are you resolute about this? I'm resolute about this. Notice how the same words can sound completely different in meaning and confidence depending on that final pitch movement. Before we move into our next block, let's take a short, quiet moment to breathe and let everything settle. If you're listening while walking, sitting, or relaxing somewhere, just take a slow breath in and out. You've now learned prudent, impulsive, discerning, conscientious, complacent, staunch, and resolute on top of everything from before. That's already close to 20 new active words in this single session, genuinely excellent progress, and we still have a lot of valuable ground to cover. Let's continue into Block 5, focusing on how people react to setbacks and pressure. Because this vocabulary is incredibly common in real conversations about work, relationships, and personal challenges. Imagine someone just found out a project they'd worked on for months was canceled completely. Their motivation drops. They feel discouraged, almost like giving up on trying at all. That feeling is disheartened. Disheartened means having lost confidence or enthusiasm, feeling discouraged, especially after disappointment or failure. She felt disheartened after her proposal was rejected for the third time. Pronunciation. Disheartened. Disheartened. Sentence. Don't get too disheartened. This happens to everyone starting out. Now, imagine facing an enormous, intimidating task, something that feels almost impossible to even begin because of its size or difficulty. That feeling is daunted. Daunted means feeling intimidated or discouraged by the size or difficulty of a task, feeling a bit frightened to start. I felt daunted by the amount of work, but I broke it into smaller steps. Pronunciation. Daunted. Daunted. Sentence. He wasn't daunted by the challenge. He actually seemed excited by it. Let's now look at the opposite reaction. When a setback or a piece of feedback actually gives someone new energy and motivation to push forward stronger than before. That's galvanized. Galvanized means suddenly filled with energy and motivation to take action, often as a reaction to a shock, challenge, or strong emotion. The harsh review actually galvanized her to completely rewrite the manuscript. Pronunciation. Galvanized. Galvanized. Sentence. The team was galvanized after the coach's speech at halftime. Now, imagine someone who used to believe strongly in a person, company, or idea, but after being let down repeatedly, they no longer trust or believe in it the way they used to. That's disillusioned. Disillusioned means having lost your positive beliefs or trust in something after discovering unpleasant truths about it. After years at the company, he became disillusioned with corporate promises of promotion. Pronunciation. Disillusioned. Disillusioned. Sentence. Many young voters feel disillusioned with politics these days. Let's balance that with a genuinely positive reaction when something, maybe good news, exercise, or an inspiring conversation, fills someone with fresh energy and enthusiasm. That's invigorated. Invigorated means filled with energy and enthusiasm, feeling refreshed and strengthened. A short walk outside always leaves me feeling invigorated before a big meeting. Pronunciation. Invigorated. Invigorated. Sentence. She felt invigorated after finally finishing the report. And now, for something even stronger than elated. Describing intense excitement, often connected to achievement or thrilling experience. That's exhilarated. Exhilarated means feeling extremely excited, happy, and full of energy, often after an intense or thrilling experience. He felt exhilarated after finishing his first marathon. Pronunciation. Exhilarated. Exhilarated. Sentence. Standing on stage for the first time was absolutely exhilarating. And finally, describing an emotional release, a moment where expressing difficult feelings, sometimes through crying, talking, or creative work, leaves someone feeling emotionally lighter and relieved. That's cathartic. Cathartic means providing psychological relief through the release of strong or repressed emotions. Writing about the breakup in her journal was genuinely cathartic for her. Pronunciation. Cathartic. Cathartic. Sentence. That conversation felt cathartic. I've been holding that in for weeks. Let's put several of these into a short visualization and scene together. Picture this. You've just been told that a major client is canceling their contract, a project you'd poured months into. Your first reaction is disappointment, maybe even disheartened, disillusioned about whether hard work even matters here. But your manager calls a quick team meeting. John Alliger, I know this news is disheartening. I felt that too when I first heard it. Yile, honestly, I feel a bit disillusioned. We did everything right, Damalager. I understand that completely. But I want this setback to galvanize us, not defeat us. Let's use it. How do you mean? Manager, let's take everything we learned from this client and pitch it to 3 new ones this month. Well, that actually sounds invigorating. Having a clear plan helps a manager. Exactly. By the end of this, I want us feeling exhilarated about what we rebuilt, not stuck on what we lost. Now let's practice this ourselves. I'll read the manager's first line again, and you respond as the employee, expressing your honest reaction using one of today's words. Pause and answer out loud now. Here's a possible response. It really is disheartening, but I appreciate you addressing it directly instead of ignoring it. Whatever your version was, notice how naturally these emotional words fit into honest, real conversation, far better than repeating bad or sad every time. Let's take a short, quieter moment here, a brief pause in the rhythm of the lesson. The same kind of pause we've used earlier. If you're sitting somewhere calm right now, let your body relax for a few seconds. Notice your breathing. This isn't wasted time. Your brain actually processes and stores new vocabulary more effectively during these small mental breaks between intense learning blocks. When you're ready, let's continue. We've now covered disheartened, daunted, galvanized, disillusioned, invigorated, exhilarated, and cathartic. 7 more words added to your growing active vocabulary. Combined with everything from earlier, you're building a genuinely rich, precise emotional vocabulary that most learners never develop, because most learners stop at happy, sad, angry, and tired. You're going far beyond that today. Coming up, we still have important ground to cover. Vocabulary for communication style and emotional composure. A full section on real listening for gist at natural speed. A genuine shadowing practice segment. A sensory self-talk exercise using everything we've learned, and our final fluency round before we close today's lesson. Keep speaking these words out loud. Don't let yourself become a silent listener. Your mouth needs this practice just as much as your ears do, and let's continue building this together. Block 6. And this one focuses on communication style and emotional composure, because how someone handles pressure while speaking is often more revealing than what they actually say. Imagine someone who rarely shares their thoughts or feelings openly, preferring to stay quiet, especially in group settings or when discussing personal matters. That's reticent. Reticent means reserved, not revealing thoughts or feelings easily, tending to stay quiet rather than share openly. He's usually reticent in meetings, but when he does speak, people listen carefully. Pronunciation. Reticent. Reticent. Sentence. She was reticent about her plans until everything was confirmed. Now imagine the opposite kind of person, someone who treats a serious situation carelessly, making jokes or dismissive comments when the moment actually calls for seriousness. That's flippant. Flippant means not showing proper respect or seriousness, treating a serious matter casually or with careless humor. His flippant comment about the layoffs didn't go over well with the team. Pronunciation. Flip-unt. Flippant. Sentence. Try not to sound flippant when you apologize. It needs to feel genuine. Speaking of apologies, let's learn a word for someone who feels genuine regret and clearly shows it. Admitting they were wrong without making excuses. That's contrite. Contrite means feeling or showing sincere remorse for wrongdoing, genuinely regretful. He gave a contrite apology and offered to fix the mistake personally. Pronunciation. Contrite. Contrite. Sentence. She looked genuinely contrite when she realized how her words had hurt him. Now let's look at someone who becomes aggressive and hostile quickly, showing anger openly and sometimes provoking conflict rather than avoiding it. That's belligerent. Belligerent means hostile and aggressive, ready to argue or fight, showing open aggression in words or behavior. The customer became belligerent when the refund was denied, raising his voice at the staff. Pronunciation. Rent. Belligerent. Sentence. There's no need to get belligerent. We can solve this calmly. Let's contrast that with someone who stays completely calm and unconcerned, even in a situation where you'd expect worry or excitement, showing an almost careless lack of concern. That's nonchalant. Nonchalant means calm and relaxed, showing a casual lack of concern, sometimes surprisingly so, given the circumstances. She stayed remarkably nonchalant about the delayed flight, while everyone else panicked. Pronunciation. Non-sh-l-h-n-t. Nonchalant. Sentence. He answered the tough question with a nonchalant shrug. Now, the ability to stay mentally calm and balanced, especially in a stressful or difficult situation, without losing composure. That's equanimity. And this one is a noun rather than an adjective. Equanimity means mental calmness and composure, especially in a difficult situation, staying emotionally steady under pressure. She handled the crisis with remarkable equanimity, never once raising her voice. Pronunciation. Equanimity. Equanimity. Sentence. He responded to the criticism with surprising equanimity. And finally, someone who appears calm, confident, and graceful, especially under pressure, controlling their emotions and presenting themselves well. That's poised. Poised means graceful and self-controlled in manner, especially when handling a difficult or high-pressure situation. She remained poised throughout the entire interview, even when they asked unexpected questions. Pronunciation. P-O-Y-Y-D. Poised. Sentence. He stayed poised under pressure while everyone else panicked. Let's build a scene combining several of these words. Picture a tense press conference. A company spokesperson is being questioned about a product recall. Reporter, some customers are saying your response has been flippant. Do you have anything to say to them? Spokesperson, I understand that concern, and I want to be genuinely contrite here. We made mistakes, and we're taking full responsibility. Reporter, a few employees online have described management as belligerent when addressing complaints. Spokespersons. So, I can't speak to individual comments, but I can promise you that, as a company, we're approaching this with calm and equanimity, not defensiveness. Reporter, you seem remarkably poised considering the situation. Spokesperson. We've prepared for tough questions, and honestly, staying nonchalant wouldn't reflect how seriously we're taking this. Reporter. One more question. Some critics say the CEO has been too reticent, avoiding public comment entirely. Spokesperson. He'll be releasing a full statement tomorrow morning. Now, let's practice. I'll read the reporter's first line again. And this time, you respond as the spokesperson in your own words, using at least one word from today's lesson. Pause and answer out loud now. Here's an example response. But I promise you our team takes this extremely seriously. Whatever version you created, notice how these words allow you to sound measured and professional, exactly the tone needed in high pressure. Real communication. Let's move into block 7 now, focusing on vocabulary for describing situations and atmospheres vividly, because being able to paint a scene with words is one of the clearest markers of advanced fluency. Imagine walking into a room right after two people had an argument. Nobody is speaking, but you can feel the tension in the air immediately, almost like you could touch it. That intense, clearly noticeable feeling is palpable. Palpable means so intense that it seems possible to touch or clearly perceive, describing an emotion or atmosphere that's obvious and strong. The tension in the room was palpable after the announcement. Pronunciation. Palpable. Palpable. Sentence. There was a palpable sense of relief once the exam was finally over. Now imagine a party where the mood is quiet, low energy, and restrained, perhaps because of sad news or a serious atmosphere. The opposite of loud celebration. That's subdued. Subdued means quiet, restrained, or lacking in intensity, describing a calm or low mood, sometimes uncomfortably so. The mood at the office was subdued after the layoffs were announced. Pronunciation. Subdued. Subdued. Sentence. Everyone was strangely subdued during dinner that night. Let's contrast that with a lively, cheerful, optimistic mood, full of energy and confidence, the kind of atmosphere that makes people feel light and hopeful. That's buoyant. Buoyant means cheerful and optimistic, full of confident energy, describing a lively and positive mood or atmosphere. The team felt buoyant after their unexpected win. Pronunciation. Buoyant. Buoyant. Sentence. There's a buoyant energy in the office since the new project launched. Now let's look at behavior or moods that change suddenly and unpredictably, without any clear pattern, making it hard to know what to expect next. That's erratic. Erratic means irregular and unpredictable, lacking a consistent pattern, often describing behavior or performance that shifts without warning. His mood has been erratic lately, calm one moment and irritated the next. Pronunciation. Erratic. Erratic. Sentence. The company's erratic pricing made customers hesitant to trust the brand. Similarly, someone whose opinions, loyalty, or feelings change quickly and often making them difficult to rely on or predict. That's fickle. Fickle means changing frequently, especially regarding loyalty, interest, or affection, not consistent or dependable. Public opinion can be incredibly fickle, popular one week, forgotten the next. Pronunciation. Fickle. Fickle. Sentence. He's too fickle to commit to any single plan for long. Now, the opposite of flexible. Someone who refuses to change their mind or behavior, even when it would clearly be reasonable to do so. That's obstinate. Obstinate means stubbornly refusing to change an opinion or course of action, despite good reasons to do so. She remained obstinate about the deadline, even after everyone explained it was unrealistic. Pronunciation. Obstinate. Obstinate. Sentence. He's too obstinate to admit when he's wrong. And finally, the feeling of anger and offense caused by something that seems unfair or unjust. A righteous kind of frustration rather than simple annoyance. That's indignant. Indignant means feeling or showing anger because of something considered unfair or unjust. She was indignant when she discovered she'd been paid less than her colleague for the same work. Pronunciation. Indignant. Indignant. Sentence. He responded with an indignant email demanding an explanation. Let's do a short visualization here before continuing. Imagine you're walking into an office building the morning after a company announced unexpected budget cuts. As you step out of the elevator, you can feel it immediately. The atmosphere is heavy, palpable, quiet conversations, subdued expressions everywhere. Now, build this scene into a short internal monologue in English. Try it yourself first, then listen to mine. As soon as I walked in, the tension was palpable. Everyone seemed unusually subdued. Nobody was joking around like they normally do. I could tell people were feeling indignant about how suddenly the decision was made, without any warning. Notice how these words work together naturally to build one vivid, coherent scene, rather than sitting isolated in a list. Now let's move into Block 8. Our final vocabulary block for today focused on formal, professional register, the kind of precise words that instantly elevate how educated and articulate you sound in serious or academic contexts. Imagine an accountant who follows every rule and regulation with extreme precision, never cutting corners, even when nobody would notice. That level of moral and professional carefulness is scrupulous. Scrupulous means extremely careful and thorough, paying close attention to detail, especially regarding what is morally right. She was scrupulous about following every safety regulation, even the ones nobody enforced. Pronunciation. Scrupulous. Scrupulous. Sentence. He kept scrupulous records of every transaction. Now let's describe someone who works hard, consistently, with steady effort and persistence, rather than working in short, intense bursts. That's diligent. Diligent. Diligence means showing careful and persistent effort in work or duties, hardworking and thorough over time. Her diligent preparation paid off when she aced the certification exam. Pronunciation: diligent, diligent. Sentence: he's one of the most diligent students I've ever taught. Let's move to someone willing to take bold risks, sometimes shocking or surprising others with their confidence and willingness to try something unconventional. That's audacious. Audacious means showing a willingness to take bold risks, often surprisingly confident or daring. It was an audacious move to challenge the industry leader directly, but it worked. Pronunciation: audacious. Audacious. Sentence: her audacious business plan impressed even the most skeptical investors. Now, someone who notices things quickly and accurately, understanding people and situations with unusual insight and sensitivity. That's perceptive. Perceptive means having quick and accurate insight and understanding, noticing things others might miss. He made a perceptive comment about the client's hesitation before anyone else picked up on it. Pronunciation: perceptive. Perceptive. Sentence: that's a really perceptive question. Let me think about it properly. Let's add a word for communication that leaves absolutely no doubt or ambiguity, completely clear and definite in meaning. That's unequivocal. Unequivocal means leaving no doubt, completely clear and certain in meaning, expressed without ambiguity. The board gave an unequivocal answer. The merger would not move forward. Pronunciation: cool. Unequivocal. Sentence: her support for the plan was unequivocal from the very beginning. Now, let's describe someone unimpressed or completely unconcerned by something. Most people would find exciting or shocking, showing indifference through excessive familiarity. That's blasé. Blasé means unconcerned, indifferent, or unimpressed, especially because of overfamiliarity with something impressive. After years in the industry, he was completely blasé about celebrity clients walking through the door. Pronunciation: blasé. Blasé. Sentence: she seemed strangely blasé about winning the award. And finally, someone who has become tired and unenthusiastic, especially after too much repeated exposure to something exciting, losing their original interest or excitement. That's jaded. Jaded means tired, bored, or lacking enthusiasm, especially after too much of a repeated experience. After 10 years in the industry, she admitted feeling a little jaded about new product launches. Pronunciation: jaded. Jaded. Sentence: don't let this one bad experience make you jaded about the whole process. Let's put this final set into a workplace scene together. Director: I need an unequivocal answer from the team by tomorrow. Are we moving forward with the launch or not? Manager: I'll be honest. Some of the junior staff seem a little jaded about another delay. Director: I understand, but I need scrupulous attention to every detail before we commit. Dollinger: Understood. Marcus has been incredibly diligent with the testing phase. Director. Good. And that new hire, the one with the audacious redesign proposal? Manager. She's genuinely perceptive. She caught 3 issues nobody else noticed. Director. Perfect. Let's not stay blasé about small details just because we're under pressure. Let's practice this one more time. I'll read the director's first line again, and you respond as the manager, in your own words, using one of today's final words, if you can. Pause and answer out loud now. Here's a possible response. I can give you a clear answer by end of day. The team just needs final approval on the budget. Excellent. Whatever version you gave, you just practiced responding under professional pressure using precise, advanced vocabulary. Exactly the skill that separates confident, fluent speakers from hesitant ones. Let's take a proper pause here. A longer, quieter moment before we move into our listening and shadowing section. Relax your shoulders. Let your breathing slow down naturally. You've now covered an enormous amount of genuinely advanced vocabulary today. Reticent, flippant, contrite, belligerent, nonchalant, equanimity, poised, palpable, subdued, buoyant, erratic, fickle, obstinate, indignant, scrupulous, diligent, audacious, perceptive, unequivocal, blasé, and jaded, on top of everything from earlier blocks. That's genuinely remarkable progress for one session, and I want you to actually feel proud of that, not just acknowledge it quickly and move on. Now, let's shift gears completely and work on something equally important. How your ear processes fast, natural English, and how your mouth learns to imitate it accurately. This next section is about shadowing, a technique where you listen to a phrase and repeat it immediately afterward, almost like an echo, matching not just the words, but the rhythm, the stress, and the connected sounds. This is different from simply repeating after a pause. The goal is to speak almost simultaneously, training your mouth and brain to process and produce English in real time without the delay of translation or preparation. Let's try it together. I'll say a short phrase, and immediately after, without pausing to think, repeat it out loud as quickly as you can, copying my rhythm exactly. Ready? She handled it with real equanimity. Now you, immediately. She handled it with real equanimity. Again. His comment felt genuinely flippant. Now you. His comment felt genuinely flippant. One more. The tension in the room was palpable. Now you. The tension in the room was palpable. Notice how shadowing forces your brain to process meaning and sound simultaneously, rather than translating word by word, which is exactly the mental shift that leads to real fluency. Let's now practice listening for gist, a crucial skill for understanding native speakers who talk quickly, especially in casual conversation. You don't need to catch every single word to understand the meaning. You need to catch the key content words and let your brain fill in the rest. Listen to this sentence at natural, fast speed. I mean, honestly, after everything that happened, I think she handled the whole situation, sequid, with way more equanimity than I would have. Even if you didn't catch every single word clearly, what's the main idea? The key content words are handled, situation, and equanimity, meaning she stayed calm despite something difficult happening. When you're in a real conversation and someone speaks quickly, instead of freezing because you missed a word, practice using natural filler responses that keep the conversation flowing while your brain catches up. Phrases like, I see. That makes sense. Or, right. This keeps communication smooth instead of stopping it completely. Now let's do one more sensory self-talk exercise before we move to our final section. This is something you can genuinely repeat on your own, anytime, without a video guiding you. The idea is simple. Describe your immediate surroundings using today's vocabulary out loud or in your mind, connecting words directly to real sensory experience rather than abstract memorization. Let's try it together right now. Look around wherever you are. Is the atmosphere around you calm, or is there some kind of tension? Try building a sentence. The mood here feels pretty subdued right now. It's quiet. Or if you're somewhere lively, there's actually a buoyant energy in this cafe today. Now think about how you're feeling in this exact moment listening to this lesson. Are you feeling invigorated by everything you've learned, or maybe a little daunted by how many new words there were? Noon. Either reaction is completely normal. Just try to express it. Honestly, I feel a bit invigorated right now. My brain is definitely working. This kind of spontaneous, sensory self-talk is exactly how you turn today's vocabulary into permanent, automatic, active language. Because you're not memorizing anymore, you're actually using English to describe your real, immediate life. Now, let's move into our fluency round, the fast-paced recap where we run through everything we've learned today, one word after another, without stopping the way real conversation actually flows. I'm going to describe a short scenario for each word, and I want you to say the word out loud immediately, without pausing to translate or search for it. Just react instantly, the way a fluent speaker would. Ready? Let's go. Someone who checks every detail with extreme care. Meticulous. Extremely frustrated after repeated problems. Exasperated. Someone who bounces back quickly from setbacks. Resilient. Extremely happy after great news. Elated. Nervous about something in the future. Apprehensive. Quietly displeased and showing it. Disgruntled. Sociable. Enjoys talking to everyone. Gregarious. Distant. Emotionally cool. Aloof. Sharp. Accurate understanding of situations. Astute. Modest despite real talent. Unassuming. Practical, focused on what works. Pragmatic. Distrustful of people's true motives. Cynical. Direct and honest, even when uncomfortable. Forthright. Keep going. Don't stop. Let your mouth react before your mind has time to hesitate. Honest, even when the truth is hard. Candid, careful not to offend when saying something difficult. Tactful, abrupt and unintentionally rude. Brusque, generous and forgiving toward a rival. Magnanimous, wanting revenge after being hurt. Vindictive, helping others without expecting anything back. Altruistic, careful about risk, thinking ahead. Prudent, acting suddenly without thinking. Impulsive, noticing fine details others miss. Discerning, extremely responsible and careful with duties. Conscientious, too comfortable, no longer trying hard. Complacent, firmly loyal, even when it's difficult. Staunch, determined, won't change their mind. Resolute, excellent, you're not even pausing anymore. That reaction speed is exactly what real fluency sounds like. Let's continue. Discouraged after a disappointment. Disheartened, intimidated by a huge task, daunted. Suddenly filled with motivation after a setback. Galvanized, no longer trusting something you once believed in. Disillusioned, refreshed and full of new energy. Invigorated, extremely excited after an intense experience. Exhilarated, emotionally releasing pent-up feelings. Cathartic, reserved, doesn't share feelings easily. Reticent, careless and disrespectful about something serious. Flippant, genuinely sorry, showing real regret. Contrite, aggressive and ready to argue. Belligerent, calm and unconcerned, almost too relaxed. Nonchalant, mental calmness under pressure. Equanimity, graceful and composed under difficulty. Poised. Keep going, you're doing genuinely great. So intense you can almost feel it in the air. Palpable, quiet, low energy mood. Subdued, cheerful, confident, and lively. Buoyant, unpredictable, changing without warning. Erratic, changes loyalty or opinion often. Fickle, stubbornly refuses to change their mind. Obstinate, angry because something feels unfair. Indignant, extremely careful about doing what's morally right. Scrupulous, hardworking, consistent effort over time. Diligent, bold, willing to take surprising risks. Audacious, quick, accurate insight into people or situations. Perceptive, completely clear, no ambiguity at all. Unequivocal, unimpressed due to over-familiarity. Blasé, tired and unenthusiastic from repetition. Jaded, take a breath and really notice what just happened. You reacted to over 50 advanced words. Out loud, with almost no hesitation. That is not passive vocabulary anymore. That is active, spoken, usable English, the exact skill that separates learners who merely recognize words from speakers who actually own them. Before we finish today, I want to give you something specific to actually do, not just a general practice more kind of advice. Pick any 3 words from today's lesson. Ones that genuinely felt useful or interesting to you personally, and write 1 sentence for each, describing something real and true about your own life right now. Then, in the comments below this video, Write those 3 sentences using your 3 chosen words. Not a translation, not a definition, just 3 honest sentences about your actual life today. This single action does more for your fluency than passively rewatching this video 10 times. Pause, because it forces your brain to retrieve and produce these words independently, which is exactly the skill we've been training this entire session. I also want to remind you of something important before you go. You didn't fail to learn these words before today because you're not capable or because your memory isn't good enough. You simply hadn't practiced using them out loud inside real emotional situations the way we did together today. That's the actual difference between a word sitting quietly in a notebook and a word that comes out naturally when you need it in real conversation. Keep doing this a little bit every single day, choosing new vocabulary, attaching it to real scenes and real feelings. Fifing se. Saying it out loud, shadowing native rhythm, and describing your own surroundings and emotions using these new words. Do that consistently, and within a few months, you'll notice something remarkable. These advanced words will simply appear in your speech, naturally, without effort, without translation, without hesitation. Thank you so much for staying with me through this entire lesson today, for speaking out loud with me, for pushing through even when some of these words felt unfamiliar at first. That effort is exactly what builds real, lasting fluency. If this lesson helped you, please subscribe to Natural Word English and turn on notifications, because every single day we bring you new advanced C1 to C2 vocabulary rooted in real, natural context, exactly like today. Keep practicing, keep speaking out loud, and I'll see you in the next lesson.